I'm gonna be straight up honest with you guys. You're being lied to out there by a lot of gatekeepers in cybersecurity. And originally I was gonna script this video and I was gonna have a nice scripted intro. You know, I threw all that out. I'm not even gonna do that because I wanna tell you raw, unfiltered, what's going on here, because there's these gatekeepers, whether it's content creators, other people in the field, and they're convincing you of all these things that are quite simply not true. And they have a vested interest to do that. I'll get into that in this video. I'm gonna break down why a lot of the stuff that these people are saying is complete and total bullshit. So I'm gonna start off with something that a lot of you guys are probably gonna find pretty juicy, pretty interesting. This is a Reddit thread from 2 years ago when people were calling me a scammer and talking a bunch of smack about me. And look, I really don't care what these people think, but I wanna use this as a learning opportunity to shine a light on some of the common gatekeeping kind of information that you hear spewed out there online, because it's very prevalent, and I think this is a good learning lesson, right? So for some backdrop, for some context on this, you know, when I used to launch my courses, and I still do launch them, as you guys that are in my email list and stuff, you probably see that, I would go on a live stream with some of my affiliates, and they would interview me, and I would talk about cybersecurity, and I would talk about what I do on the job and stuff like that, build some hype around it, and you know, if people were interested, we would prompt them to get in contact with me. And so on one of these live streams, I mentioned that I was making over $200K a year in cybersecurity at the current job that I was in. And I was talking about pen testing and stuff like that. And this was so far beyond these people's reality that I was called a scammer for even that alone. And if you're in cybersecurity right now and you're making a decent salary, just you know, drop a comment down in the section below, because you guys obviously know that 200K is not unreasonable in the field. Yeah, it's on the higher end. But I'm gonna be honest, when I was job searching, I saw job postings by Stripe, the payment processor company, that was advertising in the 300 to 400 range for a pen tester role, not even for upper level management or anything like that. And I know the job market has changed since then. This was 2 years ago, but even then, people doubted it. You know, if we scroll through these comments, and I'll get to the it's a scam man part in a little bit, but just on the salary alone, it was so far beyond people's reality that they said, oh, you know, that's because when he said that, he's making that money selling cybersecurity, not in cyber. You know, so they're like, yeah, maybe it works for him, but he's selling cybersecurity. Like, I kept seeing that cited over and over and over again. And here's a perfect example of it right here. Rule of thumb, anyone selling expert training in a field is pretty much admitting up front that selling the training is more lucrative than the actual work itself. In my case, that had nothing to do with that, and I'll show you. I'm gonna actually prove the evidence here. I'm not going to just tell you this. Look, in this video, and in all my videos for that matter, don't take my word for anything. You know, trust me, but verify what I'm saying, right? Like, I will show you the evidence of the fact that I was making this amount. I have nothing to hide. I have no reason to try to hide this stuff from you. I will be transparent with you guys fully in this video. And no, it doesn't necessarily mean just because someone is offering training that diminishes the work that they're doing or means they're not an expert or whatever this guy's saying, right? Like, that it's more lucrative than the work itself. Because in my case, right, I always wanted to have something for myself that I wouldn't have to rely on working for a job, working the 9 to 5. I found that gave me so much more freedom in my life, and I encourage you guys as well. Like, I want you guys to develop this skill set, not only so you can break in the field, but so you can have a lifelong skill set that will allow you to work on your own terms. If you want to come to Thailand and work remotely in cybersecurity, owning your own companies and stuff like that, I think you guys should do that. You know, if cyber is the path for you, awesome. If it's something else, I support that as well. So no, that doesn't necessarily mean anything. You know, in SANS, like, right, if you guys are familiar with the company SANS, they have some super, like, uber experts, like cutting edge people in the field, and they're selling the training, right? That doesn't mean that it's more lucrative than the work itself, or that that diminishes their expertise or something like that. So no, that's complete BS. But let me just show you the statements, so you're not taking my word at face value for, you know, the amount that I made or anything like that. You know, I didn't make this money and I didn't even think to clarify that at the time on the call, that no, actually this amount that I'm referring to is not even factoring in the income that I was making at the time from Elevate Cyber. This was exclusively on my 9 to 5. I was making around 200K. So you can see here my W-2 from Dell, and I blurred out some of the sensitive information, but what you can see on the screen here is the total comp for that year, which is $195,084. Okay, you got me. I was a few under on my base salary, but you know what? I actually, when you factor in the stock options and stuff I had in the bonuses, because that year I got several $1,000s in bonuses. I think I got 8,000 or so in bonuses. So with that, it was over 200K, which is what I was referring to here. But you can see just on my base salary alone, I'm barely under 200K. And then with bonuses and stock options and stuff, I am well above that. And so just to show you, yes, this is totally possible. You know, this is something that you can do if you keep leveling up. This is why I call it Elevate Cyber. If you level up and continue to learn in the field, you can absolutely get there. And so you don't have to have a company, you don't have to sell cybersecurity to make this amount of money in cybersecurity. It's totally possible for you guys. And I just see like so much doomer content out there, and it really just annoys me so much to see all these people that are working really hard, especially in the current job market, and they're being told like, oh, this isn't possible, that's not possible. You know, let's break down some more of these comments, because there's been very common talking points that I hear time and time again. So let's just scroll through here at a glance and take a look at some of these. So, you know, here's some of the old school advice. You know, I went to school for cyber years back when it wasn't the grift it is now. Why is it a grift? What is a grift about it? People are getting jobs all the time, as far as I can see. I don't know what would be a grift. If anything, was more of a grift back then, because you had to go to school for it, and then you got like tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars in student debt back then. That's a grift to me. I was 300K in student debt for learning this stuff that didn't teach me anything that I would need to know on the job. I had to start in IT because I didn't know anything, and I had to go and learn this stuff on my own on top of the schooling. So I don't know if that's not a grift, then I don't know what is. Certainly someone selling a course for a few $100, $1,000 is nothing in comparison to that, right? Even if the course is of like no value, it's still not even touching the surface in comparison to how much a grift that school would be in that case, in my view. And you know, see, you won't get a job straight into cyber. That's purely untrue. I've helped so many people do it. Even before I helped people do it, I knew you could do it because I had worked alongside people that got into it as their first job as well. But now, after doing this for multiple years, yeah, it couldn't be farther from the truth. I now know that. But, you know, a lot of people, they don't know that, and they hear information like this and they take it at face value. And I'll show you evidence of that as well. I'll show you evidence of people that I helped get jobs straight into cybersecurity and what they had to say about it and their experience, right? And you know what? Let me just show you that right now. I'll play the clip on a couple members that I helped get directly into cybersecurity without having to do like the long, slow, old school BS route that everyone convinces you have to do nowadays. So let's play that right now.
What's up, everyone? I just want to do a quick review on Ryan from Elevate Cyber. He helped me get my first cybersecurity job. So he doesn't only just help you with pen testing, he also helps you for any of your other career aspirations within cybersecurity. He was very helpful. He went above and beyond. He would always answer my questions, and he's very good at responding. He gives really good feedback on your resumes, and he'll even give you the tools to help you prepare for an interview. Because of that, I landed my first job as a cybersecurity analyst, and then eventually I would want to get into pen testing, and he'll also help you for your long-term goals as well, not just short-term. So Ryan's a really good dude. I would highly recommend having him as a mentor. He was super helpful, and I don't regret joining his course at all.
So I secured the internship after about 6 months of being with Elevate Cyber, and it was for a security analyst job with a multi-million-dollar, very, very large organization. It was part of a military program, but I do believe that without the practical experience, without the projects, without being able to answer the questions in the interview, I don't think I would have secured as good of an opportunity as I did, because truly a lot of it was based on the fact that I did have genuine interest in the field and that I was doing projects with other people and things like that. Ryan himself is incredibly accessible, and if you ever need special help, or if you need to, you know, set aside time to look at resume, do interview questions, things like that, he is very, very willing to do that. He's a very good teacher, and he's super awesome at especially working one-on-one with people. He's very knowledgeable on a very wide range of topics in cybersecurity as well. So anything that you are trying to do, I genuinely believe that Ryan could help you get there. I personally, after my year passes over, I'm going to be renewing it right away, because the value is just present all the time. Having a mentor to help guide me along in my career at this early stage is absolutely critical, and I think I'll gain a lot of value out of it in the long run.
That's what I think landed me the job. So I got a job as an information security analyst trainee at like $75K. and that's like my first job without any experience, without any
that's really good.
internships,
Wow,
with
nice.
nothing. And I mean, I did have like a lot of experience. I mean, I knew like basic security stuff from like Try Hack Me and some internal penetration stuff from like Hack the Box. But I think that the deal breaker was definitely the fact that they were asking me about about what I did over the summer, and because they said that they never see anything like that at all.
Okay, and here's another one, right? I really want to highlight this comment here. As someone who has worked in cybersecurity for 21 years, I can tell you that there aren't any courses or certifications that you can take in 12 months and get a cybersecurity job paying 100K plus. Unless you're really lucky or have good networking contacts, it is possible to get an entry-level job, but you have to get the right company to give you a shot. Once you have your foot in the door, you can usually move upwards, lateral, fairly easy. I have a pharmacist acquaintance that is a pharmacist for Publix, but works in headquarters doing IT work related pharmaceutical side of things. He makes more than he did as a pharmacist. He does have a PharmD license as well, if that makes a difference. No, okay, here's the thing, right? Just because you have 21 years experience in something does not make you an expert. Actually, if anything, it's a bit of a red flag. It can be a bit of a red flag in some senses. Think about it, right? That means this guy got into the field 21 years ago. You know how long ago that is? In tech years. In tech years, that is the dinosaur age. That is the stone age. So if anything, that makes this guy less credible, because when he got in the field, it was so vastly different. It was so drastically different that pretty much anything he has to say is irrelevant in my view. And you might be saying the same thing. Well, you got into the field a decade ago. Here's the difference, right? Well, for one thing, I'm active on interview. Over the course of my career, especially in the last 5 years of my career, I've been super active in interviewing candidates for the job. But also, I mean, I've been running Elevate Cyber now since 2020. So I've been in the trenches actually helping people apply to these jobs, helping them with the interview process, with the resume process. So I'm really plugged in to what is the current job market looking like and optimizing for that. But if you just take like the average person that just has like a 9-to-5 in cybersecurity and doesn't do any kind of mentor stuff on the side or anything like that, and they got in the field 21 years ago, is that really like the best advice? Can they really dispense the best advice? And I'll put it to you another way, right? Think about your current job. Maybe you're not even in cybersecurity. Do you know anyone at that company that's been there for like multiple decades? You know, like when you guys have those like big corporate meetings and they're like the 5-year badge of service, the 10-year badge of service, the 20-year badge of service, and you just see like some boomer that's like been at the company like their entire career. What is the skill level of some of those people? Like, do you work alongside any of those people that have been at the company for a super long time? I can tell you in most of the cases, when I've encountered those people, they were some of the least skilled people. They were the most complacent people. They were people that just kind of were coasting, to be quite frank with you. And, you know, I used to work for the VA, you know, for the US government. And, you know, we're seeing it with the Doge stuff right now, right? They're going in, they're firing a bunch of government employees. Why? Because a lot of those people are notorious for being very complacent and just, you know, kind of just sitting around at these government companies and not really continuing to advance themselves. They're just coasting, right? Because it's easy to coast in government jobs. And so like when I used to do pen testing on the government side, I used to encounter the ugliest, oldest, most outdated looking websites I've ever seen in my life. I'm not kidding. I remember there's this one site that I was pen testing. It was like this powder blue, this ugly powder blue. The site looked like it was created in like 1995. Like it's something that I would expect to access like when I was booting up Windows 95 as a kid, like on AOL. Like it was really that bad. You could have created this website after about maybe like 30 minutes of learning CSS. Like if someone taught you a basic tutorial on, hey, here's how to make a solid baby blue background in CSS, you could build that site in a day. It was that ugly. But why does that happen? Well, because, you know, these people, they get these jobs, they sit around, they coast, and they probably learned it. In their defense, back in the 90s is when they probably learned web development, and they never really upskilled themselves or leveled up from there. They just sat there complacently. You could do that for multiple decades. Boom, suddenly you got 21 years experience, and you can go on Reddit and you can dispense some advice, and people are going to take you as an authority figure because, 21 years that you've been sitting at the same job. But is that really the metric of success? Okay, so the next question you might be wondering is like, why are these people saying this? Why does this happen? Well, really there's like two camps of people that I see. The first ones are the ones that are acting out of fear, straight up. And the second ones are the people that are just naive to the whole thing. And I used to be there as well. So I can tell you how this springs up. So first, the ones that are acting out of fear, right? So the reality is that many of these people, they don't want you to land a job. in cybersecurity right now in the current job market. I'm going to be straight up honest with you. There's a lot of fear going on in the current market. You know, people that have had jobs in cybersecurity for a while and that were coasting, they're getting laid off, and now they're having to go into the market and compete with all the other people that have been laid off as well. This is why, as an entry-level person, it is harder than it has been previously right now, because you're competing with these people as well. And the reality is, these people that are sitting in this fear, they don't want the competition, to be quite honest with you. They don't want you flooding in the market. They would rather, you know, you just, you know, go in IT, right? Go off in IT, like stop competing with me, right? They would rather you, you know, not be their competition directly. So these people, they want to kind of hold on to what they have, and they're not really, and I've seen this many times on the job as well. People that will be at a company and they won't knowledge share their information. They'll just kind of hoard their knowledge because they're afraid that if they share the knowledge with other people on the team, they're going to be replaced. So they try to artificially make themselves irreplaceable by hoarding certain knowledge so that the company feels like, oh, they have to hang on to this guy because he's the only one that knows this piece of technology or whatever. This is kind of what you're seeing at a larger scale on the internet with people that are dispensing this advice. That's one camp of people. The other camp of people, you know, they're a bit more well-meaning, but they're just naive to the whole thing. Like, some people legitimately don't know that you can land a job directly in cybersecurity in 6 months, even in less than that. And here's the thing, like, before I started running Elevate Cyber, if you would have told me that someone could get a job in cybersecurity as a beginner in 4 months or 6 months, I would be really skeptical of that. I'd probably say that it's a scam, that you know, it's not possible or something like that. Maybe I would say something along the lines of the Reddit people, maybe a little bit less doomer, because I don't know, I'm just not a doomer. And I think that is a key part if you want to be successful. You got to get rid of, for those of you that are basking in this doomer mindset and you're watching these doomer content creators, you got to weed that out, because honestly, you can will that into existence as well. The opposite is true, right? People talk about thinking positive. Well, if you think negative like that, then that can become your reality as well. But what I'm saying is, beyond all of that, you know, I probably would have been pretty skeptical of it as well. But now that I've been running this program for so many years now, I've helped so many people get jobs from beginner into cybersecurity, many of them in 6 months. You know, you watched those videos earlier, right? When I popped them on the screen, and these people getting jobs in 6 months or less. You know, the guy Jimmy, who got a job in 4 months, only 4 months, he landed an internship in cybersecurity. So that was something that I certainly would have been very skeptical about before, but I've just seen it happen too many times. It's not a coincidence. It's not a one-off thing. This is happening in my program for my students month over month. And the main purpose that I want to get through, regardless of my program, is that you guys don't fall for these pitfalls of thinking that, you know, you have to jump through all of these hoops and that it's impossible, or it's, you know, nearly impossible to do this, and you're buying into what these gatekeepers are telling you. You know, if they had to go down a certain path, that doesn't mean that you have to go through the same hardship. It took me 3 years of learning on my own, by the way, to get into this field, because I didn't have a mentor. I didn't have anyone to guide me. I didn't have any, you know, comprehensive program like I did now. I just had like the pre-recorded courses on Udemy, Cybrary, stuff like that. And yeah, just because I did that doesn't mean that it's the only way to do it, or like someone else has to do it. You know, I've evolved, I've leveled up, I've learned more about the process. You know, being on the other side, I've figured out how to optimize it. I've figured out how to fine tune and hone in to what these companies are looking for. And so that is what's allowing people to do it a lot faster than I can. And I think that's awesome. I mean, I would have loved to have that myself. I certainly don't want to gatekeep that. I'm in a different position though than a lot of these people that are fighting over these jobs and like hoping they don't get fired and stuff, because I work for myself. I don't work for a company anymore. I don't work for like the traditional 9 to 5. So I don't have any vested interest to deter you from entering the field and competing in the job market and applying to these jobs. You know, I hope you get in, you know, my job is not in jeopardy because there's people flooding the market or whatever. So I'm in a more unbiased position in that regard to give you advice on this. You know, I want people to succeed in the field. And here's the thing as well, a lot of these gatekeeper, you know, cybersecurity content creators and stuff like that, they often try to take the moral high ground by, you know, claiming that they don't sell anything. But if you really look into it, they do sell stuff. Others not selling their own course or their own program. They have sponsors, right? They're selling their sponsors stuff, right? So what is that really? Like, oh, that's so much better than selling your own thing, right? So there's content creators that will call out, you know, people like me because, oh, you sell a program and it's more than $40, right? But if you watch a lot of their videos, they're making the video to sell the product. So like, for example, maybe they have a sponsorship by, this is the most common one, right? The VPN, right? A VPN company sponsors them. So then they either make a video around like, how hackers can steal your information just so they can, plug the VPN, or they just try to weave it in some way that doesn't really make sense for the video. It's like completely off topic, but they try to like weave it in. When you watch the videos, you can tell you're like, oh God, here we go. He's segueing into the ad, right? So you see stuff like that all the time. So it's like, how is that much better than selling your own program? But yeah, these gatekeepers, they try to take the moral high ground. They try to call out me. They try to call out like other creators that sell their own stuff because like, oh, how dare them? They're so scammy. I don't do that. I sell products by other companies. It's like, what is that even really? And here's the thing as well. Here's one of the most common statements that you'll hear from these gatekeepers when they're trying to hold you back. They will say, information is free. They love that. They absolutely love that. That is like, they probably have that tattooed above their ass cheek, to be honest. Information is free. And here's the thing. Yes, information is free. You could say that about anything, right? You could, if you wanted to be a lawyer, if it weren't for the schooling required, you could find all that information on the internet. You can read up on US law, right? You can read up on all this stuff. But you know what? I bet you one thing. If you get sued, you're not going to represent yourself in court. You're going to get a lawyer. You know why? Because even though information is free, wisdom and discernment are not. Right? You don't have the time, and you're not going to take the risk in a lawsuit or something to go and try and study up on the law yourself and represent yourself in court and trying to figure out all of that stuff on your own, even if the information is free out there on the internet, right? You're going to hire a professional. You're going to hire someone that knows the ins and outs and stuff. There's someone that lives and breathes it, right? And why wouldn't you? That makes perfect sense in that scenario. In fact, it would be pretty reckless to try and do that on your own. And so the point is, it's like, even though the information could be out there for free, and it is out there for free, I should say, you're going to spend a lot of time trying to figure out if you're learning the right thing, if the source is a good source or not so good source. You could end up wasting your time if you pick the wrong sources or learn the wrong things. Eventually you'll get there if you're determined enough, but how valuable is your time to you? Because you're gonna, learning stuff is hard enough. This is a difficult skill set to acquire. It gets exponentially more difficult when you try to go lone wolf, whatever that means, because even if you go lone wolf, you're still leveraging the free material from other people, so you're still relying on other people anyways, so you may as well just rely on other people in a more efficient way by investing in your learning, in my opinion, but, what do I know, right? But that's the point. Is like the wisdom and discernment are not free. That is what you're actually paying for. You're not buying a course because the information can only be found in the course and stuff like that. I mean, it's good marketing, right? The secret, right? But the reality is you're paying to have that information, packaged to you in a very consumable way, so you don't have to waste your time on those other semantics of it. Like, is it a good source? What should I learn and all this stuff. And so that's the real value that, gets overlooked when they just say these blanket statements like information is free. You can find this in a $5 ebook. Yeah, if you stumble upon the perfect ebook for $5 that happens to have all the perfect information, and by the way, you don't know what you don't know. So even if you do stumble across that, you wouldn't know. It would just look like any other ebook, right? Because you don't have the wisdom and discernment. So now that you have all the evidence in front of you, if you have decided that you're not going to buy into the gatekeeping mindset, and you believe that it is possible for you to get a job straight in cybersecurity, because if you don't, honestly, it's not going to work for you. Nothing's going to work if you don't believe that it's possible for you. But if you're still here and you're not going to succumb to this mindset, then what are the next steps? Well, to be honest, even though I do offer up a boot camp, which I'll go over with you, if you know someone that is, a pen tester or someone in cybersecurity that's doing what you want to do and is willing to mentor you, that's an option as well. One thing I'll say about that is that a lot of times it's not the ideal mentor because these people are busy with their own lives and their 9-to-5s, right? Especially if they're not like full on offering a mentorship, in a formal program or something like that. Now, fortunately, the upside of working with me is that I am doing this full time. I am getting paid to do this. So this is what I'm putting everything into. I do some freelance contracts and things like that on the side to stay current, but my primary thing is mentoring people and helping them get into the field nowadays. And, I'm fortunate enough to be able to say that. So if you want some mentorship, if you want some guidance to fast track yourself, to get those results that you saw, previously in the video with some of those videos that I showed you of people that have went through the program and been successful, here's what you need to know. So I offer a cybersecurity bootcamp. It's a 1-year program. It basically starts the day that you join. It's always available. And so, you can always enroll at any time. And in the bootcamp, I will run 4 live courses every year around different topics. If I were to summarize the purpose of this bootcamp, it's really to focus in, hyper focus in on what you need to know to land that first job, because not all things are created equally. One of the biggest challenges when you're trying to get into this field is, what should I even focus on? What should I prioritize? Because pretty much everything can be hacked, and you can go in so many different directions. If I were to just summarize, the 3 core areas are web security, network security, and Active Directory. That's absolutely going to come up in those pen testing interviews. But even if you're not specifically interested in pen testing, I've had a lot of people go through this program, land jobs on the offensive and defensive side, because we are really hyper focused on the foundations, on the fundamentals, not just the pen testing side, but why does the issue exist? How can we secure against it? So when you have a good holistic understanding of cybersecurity, that's going to allow you to be able to go into either side and not be funneled into one or the other. Now, with the live courses, I'm teaching you the fundamentals from the ground up. I'm assuming no prior knowledge, and also showing you some live demos on the calls. I think the live format is great for showing you, hey, not everything goes 1,000% smoothly every time, and here's how I reason about, whenever I run into any unexpected hurdles and things like that. So we'll see that live on the call, but most importantly, you get access to a comprehensive lab environment where you can practice hands-on. It's all about hands-on in cybersecurity. That's going to be really, really huge. And so even though they are live, they are recorded as well. So if you want to watch something back a second time, or if you happen to miss a call, you're able to do that pretty much right away. I'd put those recordings up. Also, you'll get access to the weekly professional development webinars. These are small group calls where I call on everyone individually, answer all their questions, and make sure that they're getting very targeted advice. On these YouTube videos, I have to make very generic advice that's targeted at a general audience. In these webinars, the advantage is I can take into account you specifically as an individual, what your goals are, what your background is, and give you very targeted advice so you know and have the peace of mind that what you're focusing on is the best thing that you could be honing in on. And then also you'll gain access to the network of everyone else in the program. I've been doing this for a number of years, so there's a lot of people in there that have went through the program. Now they're working in the field, both on the offensive and defensive side. We have SOC analysts in there. We have digital forensics people. We have pen testers. So a great network to pick their brain, see what do they do on the day-to-day job, and help you come up with, a better idea of where you want to actually focus in on in cybersecurity. And also, of course, there'll be a lot of people along the journey with you that are learning this stuff from various backgrounds, whether it's from military background, whether it's a developer background, whether they're just students. We have someone, chances are, in your city, and chances are we have someone in your profession as well. And also, you will gain access to a group chat where you can ask questions at any time. I'm actually in the process of migrating it over to Discord this month, but you can also DM me as well. I'm always answering questions over DMs and helping you move forward. You'll have my full support at every step in the process. It's not just like a Udemy course with like 12 pre-recorded modules and that's all you get. There's a lot of interactivity in this baked in. And also, you will gain access to all of the interview prep and resume prep that you need to help land those interviews in the first place. So things like, seeing how can we take your current experience and previous coursework and really package that in the best way to land the interview. And then we can do mock interview prep as well. So I can actually personally interview you with a one-on-one call, and I can help you identify what those weak points are that we need to focus on to really optimize everything for you going forward. A lot of people have found that extremely instrumental in landing these jobs so quickly. And then also, you'll gain access to the entire back catalog of all the previous courses that I've done. It's more than 180 hours now. I need to update this bullet point, to be honest. But that back catalog includes all those core areas like web, network, Active Directory. We even have areas like binary exploitation, digital forensics, cloud pen testing, and we're always adding to that with each course we do. And another thing that I've added to the program is I'm also guaranteeing job experience for everyone that goes through. I do that by leveraging the position that I'm in, the relationships that I have with these companies to get you guys freelance contracts so that you can actually have experience before you even go to apply to that first job. That's the number one thing in this crazy job market. They are highly prioritizing people with experience over having OSCP or whatever certification. This is really, really key, and it's the exact reason that I added it to the program this year. If you can have experience, that is going to move mountains for you and really help you stand out in the competition, because that's one of the most common issues issues is the chicken and the egg thing. How do I get experience without having experience already? And so that is one of the key solutions to that. This program is called the Elevate Cyber Year Pass. It's my bootcamp and mentorship program that I offer for $14.97 a year. I also do offer a payment plan if it's a better option. Just let me know and we can hash that out. But yeah, that is the program. Like I said, you don't have to go with it. If you have, someone that you know personally that's going to mentor you, you can go that route as well. So this is not a sales pitch or anything like that. What I really want to harp on is the fact that, look, don't let these people gatekeep you. There's so much opportunity in this field. I don't care what the current job market is. There's people landing these jobs all the time. I'm seeing it firsthand with the people in my community month in and month out, and it hasn't changed even despite the job market changing. And so if you elevate yourself in cybersecurity, you will succeed in any season. Maybe it's a little bit, you have to apply to a little bit more jobs than you do before, but even in the Great Depression, people were landing jobs is the thing. I bet I could at least point to one or two people if I did enough digging on that landed a job during the Great Depression. So the point is to be careful of the content you're consuming as well. Don't just consume a bunch of doomer content because that's going to negatively impact your mindset. Anyways, I don't want to keep on rambling on here. Hopefully you found this video of value. Let me know any comments you have down in the section below. I'd love to hear your guys' discussion on this. And yeah, let's combat this gatekeeper mindset stuff. I absolutely hate that, and I hate seeing people give up, and I hate seeing well-meaning people give up because of some misinformation they heard out there online. So yeah, all right guys, I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.